A millionaire marries a rebellious girl on a bet, only to find out she's a virgin on wedding night. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. The neon lights of Manhattan blurred in the drizzle, streaking the glass walls of the rooftop bar. Inside, the air buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the arrogance of men who believed money made them invincible. Ethan Ward, 32, billionaire investor with a reputation colder than the martini in his hand, leaned back in his chair. His friends surrounded him, men with tailored suits and hollow eyes, daring each other into games that cost more than most people's yearly salaries. One of them smirked. "Ward, you always win on the trading floor. But can you win in love?" Ethan's lips curved into a half-smile. "Love? That's a children's story. Marriage is just paperwork." A roar of laughter followed. The friend pressed, his voice dripping with challenge. "Then prove it. Marry the first woman who walks through that door. Bet you can't." The room stilled for half a beat. Ethan swirled the olive in his glass, eyes flicking toward the rain-streaked entrance. His pulse didn't rise. He never backed away from a wager. "Done," he said, the word sharp as the click of a lock. The door swung open. She walked in. Maya Collins, 23, a streak of midnight hair, leather jacket dripping with rain, combat boots squeaking against polished marble. She didn't belong in this world of silk and champagne, and she knew it. Her eyes were fire, the kind that dared anyone to tell her she was less. She brushed water from her jacket, glanced around the glittering crowd, and muttered, "Rich kids playing gods." She wasn't here for them. She was here to collect her cousin, who had texted in a panic earlier. But fate, or maybe the cruel joke of the universe, threw her straight into Ethan Ward's path. He rose, smooth and deliberate, and cut across the floor. Every eye followed him. Maya noticed, scowled, and folded her arms. "What?" "You," Ethan said, his voice low enough to slice through the hum of music. "Marry me." Maya blinked. "Excuse me?" "Think of it as a contract," he continued, slipping a card across the table she had paused near. His gaze never wavered. 7 days. A ring. A ceremony. You get something you need. I win a bet. Her laugh was sharp, disbelieving. "You're insane." "Maybe," Ethan said evenly. "But I'm serious. What do you say?" She should have walked away. Every instinct screamed this was madness. Yet behind the absurdity, the words echoed against her private terror, her mother's bookstore, the last thread of their family, days away from foreclosure. No bank would help. No job would cover the debt in time. She needed a miracle, or maybe just a deal with the devil. Her jaw tightened. "What's in it for me? Financial freedom, protection, 1 year under my name, and your debts vanish." Maya stared at him, trying to read the smirk in his eyes. He looked like a man who had never lost, and maybe she was tired of always losing. She grabbed the card, shoved it into her jacket, and muttered, "Fine, you've got yourself a bride. But don't think for a second you own me." The bar erupted in disbelief. Ethan simply lifted his glass, a victor's smile curving his lips. No one knew it yet, but this reckless bet had just bound two strangers in a marriage that would test every rule, every scar, and every secret they carried. The rain didn't let up that night. It slicked the streets of Manhattan, turning every reflection into liquid fire. Maya walked fast, her boots splashing through shallow puddles, Ethan's business card burning a hole in her pocket. She hated herself for even considering it, but the thought of her mother's bookstore dark windows, foreclosure notice taped to the door, wouldn't leave her mind. By the time she pushed open the creaky apartment door, the place smelled faintly of old books and lavender. Her mother sat hunched at the kitchen table, gray creeping into her hair, a stack of overdue bills in front of her. She looked up with tired eyes. "Maya, the bank called again today. They're not waiting anymore." Maya swallowed hard, sliding her jacket off. "I know, Mom. I'm working on it." Her mother reached for her hand. "You can't carry all of this alone. Maybe we should let the shop go." "Number." The word cut sharp. It's all we have left of Dad. I'm not letting it die. She didn't mention Ethan Ward. How could she? He was everything her mother despised: arrogance, money, the very people who walked past their bookstore without even looking inside. And yet his offer loomed over her like a storm cloud. 2 days later, Maya found herself standing in front of a polished glass tower that scraped the clouds. The doorman eyed her combat boots with thinly veiled disdain before opening the door. Inside, the lobby gleamed marble floors, gold accents, a world that screamed power. Ethan waited near the elevator, dark suit flawless, tie knotted like a blade at his throat. He looked at her the way he might look at a stock he planned to buy out, calm, calculated, already his. "You came," he said, lips curling faintly. "Don't flatter yourself." She adjusted her jacket. "I just want to hear the terms before I decide." His assistant appeared with a slim black folder. Ethan opened it, sliding a set of documents toward her on a glass table. "5 conditions," he said evenly. 1. You stay married to me for 1 year. 2. You accompany me to public events without complaint. 3. You do not interfere in my personal life. 4. No intimacy unless mutually agreed. 5. Confidentiality is absolute. Maya stared at the paper, jaw tight. "So basically, I become your prop." "You become my wife," Ethan corrected, his voice like steel wrapped in silk. "And in return, your debts disappear. The bookstore stays open." Her heart pounded. This was everything she'd prayed for, and the very trap she had sworn to avoid. Still, she picked up the pen, twirling it between her fingers. "Fine. But don't think this means you control me." A flicker of something amusement, respect, passed through his eyes. "I wouldn't dare." The pen scratched against paper, sealing a deal that neither of them truly understood. That night, Maya stood in front of her cracked bedroom mirror, staring at the ring Ethan's assistant had delivered: simple platinum, no diamonds, no sentiment. A symbol of a transaction. She slipped it on, the cold metal biting into her skin. Her best friend Lila dropped onto the bed behind her, eyes wide. "You actually did it? You're marrying him? Maya, he's Ethan Ward. Do you even know who he is?" Maya turned, defiance flashing. "I know enough, and this isn't about him. It's about saving Mom's bookstore. If I have to be someone's paper bride for a year to do that, then so be it." Lila frowned. "Just be careful. Guys like him, they don't play fair." Maya forced a grin she didn't feel. "Neither do I." 3 days later, in a hushed courthouse room, the vows were spoken. Ethan's voice steady, Maya's voice clipped. No flowers, no music, no family, just signatures, a seal, and the weight of silence. As they stepped out into the drizzle, Ethan offered his arm. She ignored it, pulling her jacket tighter. "This doesn't make us real," she muttered. "Not yet," he said softly, almost to himself. The black limousine door swung open. For the first time, Maya looked back at the courthouse steps, wondering if she had just saved her family or sold her soul. Ahead loomed Ethan Ward's world, one she didn't belong to. But the ink was dry, the ring cold on her finger, and there was no turning back. The limousine rolled silently up the long driveway, tires whispering against the wet pavement. Through the window, Maya caught her first glimpse of Ethan's estate. The mansion rose out of the mist like something carved from another world, columns towering, windows glowing faintly, acres of manicured gardens stretching beyond iron gates. It was the kind of place people only saw on glossy magazine covers, a palace pretending to be a home. Her stomach tightened. She pressed her palms against her knees, forcing herself to breathe. Ethan sat across from her, perfectly composed, his profile sharp against the passing light. He looked like he belonged here, born of marble and steel. She, in her scuffed boots and leather jacket, felt like a smudge on a flawless page. The car stopped. A butler opened the door with a bow so practiced it felt rehearsed. "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Ward." The words hit Maya like a slap. She stepped out, the damp air wrapping around her. The mansion loomed overhead, its facade intimidating in its silence. Ethan extended a hand toward her. She ignored it, striding up the steps with her chin high, as if daring the house itself to swallow her. Inside, the foyer was vast, marble floors gleaming under chandeliers dripping with crystal. A sweeping staircase curved upward, Portraits of men in tailored suits watching from the walls, generations of wards. Each gaze colder than the last. A housekeeper led Maya to her room. Not their room, her room. The door opened onto a suite larger than her entire apartment back in the city. A canopy bed draped in silk. A fireplace carved from stone. French windows overlooking gardens that seemed to stretch forever. It was beautiful, too beautiful, and yet every inch of it felt foreign. She dropped her bag on the bed, the thud small against the cavernous silence. Dinner was at 7. Maya arrived in her own clothes, refusing the gown laid out for her. The dining hall stretched like a ballroom, the table long enough to seat 30. Tonight, only 2 places were set, one at each end. Ethan cut into his fillet with surgical precision, his posture perfect. He glanced up. "I trust you're settling in." Maya stabbed her fork into roasted vegetables, her defiance clear. "This place is a museum, not a home." "Depends on who's looking," Ethan replied smoothly. "Some people would call it a dream. I call it a prison with expensive wallpaper." For the first time, his lips twitched half amusement, half something else. "You're not like anyone I've brought here." "Good," she shot back. "I'd hate to blend in." They ate in silence after that, the clink of silverware echoing like accusations. Maya's mind spun with questions she refused to ask. Why had he really done this? Was she just a trophy for a bet? Or was there something under that cold, polished armor? Later, she wandered the hallways alone. The portraits loomed. The silence pressed in. She stopped at a door slightly ajar and peeked inside. A study, lined with shelves of leather-bound books. On the desk, beneath a lamp's warm glow, sat a chessboard mid-game. One black knight poised against a white queen. Her fingers itched to move a piece, to disrupt the frozen battle. She didn't. Instead, she turned away, her footsteps soft against the rug. Back in her room, she stood before the mirror. The platinum ring gleamed under the light, a band of cold metal binding her to a man she didn't trust. She slipped it off, just for a moment, and whispered to her reflection, 1 year, just 1 year. Down the hall, Ethan watched her from the shadows, unseen. His eyes lingered not on the ring she had set on the nightstand, but on the fire in her gaze. He had expected compliance, maybe resentment, but not this unshakable spirit. For the first time, the man who never lost wondered if he had finally made a bet he couldn't control. The first week in Ethan's mansion unfolded like a crash course in a life Maya had never imagined. By day, stylists and etiquette coaches swarmed around her, adjusting her walk, correcting the way she held a wine glass, drilling her on which fork to use. By night, she collapsed into the massive bed of her suite, exhausted, wondering if saving the bookstore was worth losing pieces of herself. Ethan observed from a distance, rarely commenting, but his eyes missed nothing. When she stumbled during a waltz lesson, he caught her arm before the instructor could react. "Don't fight the rhythm," he murmured, his grip steady. "Let it carry you." Maya pulled free. "I don't like being told what to do." A faint smile touched his lips. Rebellious as ever. Their first public event came sooner than she expected, a charity gala hosted at one of the city's grand hotels. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, laughter, and the scent of money perfumed with arrogance. Cameras flashed as they entered. Ethan looked every inch the untouchable billionaire in his black tuxedo. Maya, in a sleek gown chosen by the stylist, felt like an imposter wearing someone else's skin. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "That's his wife? So sudden. She's not society material. A fling, surely." Maya kept her chin high, pretending the words bounced off her. But when a silver-haired board member sneered aloud, "Ward, you couldn't find anyone better?" the room hushed, waiting for Ethan's reaction. Before he could speak, Maya stepped forward. Her voice was clear, unshaken. "Better? Tell me, sir, how do you measure that? Is it money, status, or maybe it's something you can't buy a backbone?" Gasps scattered across the tables. The board member flushed crimson. Ethan's eyes narrowed, not with anger, but with something that almost looked like pride. For the rest of the evening, Maya surprised everyone. She spoke to guests with unpolished honesty, laughing at awkward moments, admitting when she didn't understand stock market jargon, but listening intently. Instead of being dismissed, she drew attention, genuine attention. People leaned closer, charmed by her candor. On the drive back, silence filled the car. Finally, Ethan said, "You turned a disaster into a triumph." Maya folded her arms. "I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was just being me." "And that," Ethan said quietly, "was enough." The words unsettled her. For the first time, she wondered if beneath his arrogance, Ethan Ward was capable of seeing her not as a bet, not as a prop, but as herself. Later that night, unable to sleep, Maya wandered out to the balcony of her suite. The city lights glittered in the distance, far away from the marble cage she was trapped in. She hugged her arms against the chill. Behind her, the sliding door opened softly. Ethan stepped out, jacket draped over one arm. "You'll catch cold." She turned. "I'm fine." He laid the jacket across her shoulders anyway. For a moment, the world stilled the hum of the city below, the faint scent of his cologne, the weight of a silence neither of them knew how to break. Ethan finally spoke, his voice low. "You think this is just a game to me, but not everything in my life is about winning." Maya met his gaze, fire against steel. "Then prove it." Neither moved. The distance between them felt fragile, dangerous. Then Ethan stepped back, retreating into the shadows of the suite, leaving her alone beneath the stars. Maya clutched the jacket tighter, her heart racing. She had agreed to be his bride on paper, nothing more. But tonight, for the first time, she feared the contract wasn't the only thing binding her to Ethan Ward. The next weeks blurred into a routine Maya never asked for, but couldn't escape. Morning rides in sleek town cars, fittings in mirrored studios, and evenings spent on Ethan's arm at dinners where she was studied like a rare exhibit. Each event was a battlefield, but to her own surprise, she adapted. Her sharp humor disarmed critics. Her honesty drew allies. What had started as a contract began to feel like something else, though she would never admit it aloud. It was at a shareholder gala that the real test came. The ballroom was crowded, cameras flashing like lightning as Ethan delivered a speech about new acquisitions. Maya sat at his side, nodding politely, rehearsing the mask she wore so well. Then, during the Q&A, a reporter stood. "Mr. Ward, some say your marriage is nothing more than a stunt. Care to comment?" The room tensed. Ethan's jaw clenched, ready to respond. But Maya rose before he could. Her voice carried across the hall. "A stunt? If marrying a man means facing judgment every day, then call it what you want. But I didn't marry him for the cameras. I married him because sometimes a reckless choice is better than no choice at all, and I stand by mine." Gasps erupted, then murmurs, then applause scattered at first, then swelling. The board members glanced at each other, unsettled yet impressed. The reporter shrank back. Ethan remained still, but his eyes burned into her with something unreadable. Later that night, the limousine glided through rain-slick streets. Maya stared out the window, heart pounding. She hadn't planned that speech. It had simply burst out, raw and unfiltered. Ethan broke the silence. "You defended us." "I defended myself," she shot back. "Don't twist it." His lips curved faintly. "Either way, it worked. They respect you now." Maya turned, searching his face. "And you? Do you?" For a moment, his mask slipped. He looked almost human, almost vulnerable. "More than I expected." The words clung to her long after they reached the mansion. That night, restless, Maya wandered again. She found Ethan alone in his study, tie loosened, a glass of whiskey untouched on the desk. He didn't notice her at first, staring at the half-played chessboard. Finally, he said, "Do you know why I play?" She leaned on the doorframe. "Because you like winning?" His gaze lifted to hers, sharper than she expected. "Because it's the only place where the rules make sense. Life doesn't." Something in his tone cracked the armor she thought unbreakable. She stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "So what's this marriage then? Another game piece to move around?" Ethan's silence was heavy. Then he whispered, almost to himself, "I don't know anymore." For the first time, Maya didn't fire back. She simply watched him, caught between anger and something she didn't want to name. When she finally turned to leave, his voice followed her softly. "You're not what I expected." She didn't answer. But in her room later, lying awake with his jacket still draped over her chair, she realized she was thinking the same thing. What terrified her most wasn't that she had been dragged into Ethan Ward's world. It was that piece by piece, Without meaning to, she might be starting to belong in it. A storm gathered over the city the night everything shifted. Maya had grown used to the rhythm of Ethan's world-grand dinners, hollow smiles, whispered gossip. She thought nothing could surprise her anymore. Until the fundraiser at the Meridian Hotel. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers, gowns trailing like rivers of silk, tuxedos pressed sharp as knives. Ethan stood at the podium, his speech flawless, commanding. Maya sat at his side, trying to ignore the eyes measuring every inch of her. She fiddled with the ring on her finger, that cold band of metal that never let her forget this was supposed to be a contract, not a life. Then the host's voice rang out, cheerful, booming. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome tonight's guest of honor, Ethan Ward, our city's most visionary billionaire. The words hit Maya like a punch. Her chest tightened. Billionaire. She had known he was wealthy, powerful, but not like this. Not this. She had thought she was marrying a rich man for survival. She hadn't realized she had stepped into the world of a king. Applause thundered. Cameras flashed. Ethan smiled, every inch the perfect master of the stage. And suddenly, she felt small, so painfully small. Her breath faltered. She pushed back her chair and slipped out, the sound of clapping fading as she fled into the marble corridor. She leaned against a column, hands trembling. He never told me. He let me walk blind into this circus, made me think I was the one hiding, when all along, it was him. Footsteps followed, Ethan's voice, low but urgent. Maya, she spun, eyes blazing. You lied to me. I didn't lie, he said quietly. I didn't tell you everything. Everything? Her laugh was bitter, breaking. You let me believe this was just money, just status. But you, she gestured back toward the ballroom, her voice sharp. You're not just rich, Ethan. You're untouchable. And you made me the fool who walked in unprepared. He stepped closer, his mask cracking. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I planned to meet a woman who couldn't be bought or bent? You disarmed me, Maya, and I didn't know how to tell you the truth without losing you. Her chest ached. The anger and hurt tangled until she could barely breathe. You already lost me. Oh. She turned, walking fast down the corridor, heels striking against the polished floor like gunshots. Ethan didn't follow this time. He just stood there, silent, as if rooted in place by the weight of his own deception. Outside, rain streaked across the hotel's grand steps. Maya pulled her coat tight, the cold slicing into her, but it wasn't the storm that made her shiver. It was the realization that the one man she had started to trust had hidden the deepest truth of all. That night, back at the mansion, she packed her bag with trembling hands. Every corner of that palace felt like a gilded cage. She slipped off the platinum ring, set it on the dresser, and whispered to herself, no more games. The next morning, the staff discovered her suite empty, the bed untouched. Only the ring remained, gleaming under the pale light of dawn, a silent declaration that Maya Collins was gone. Ethan Ward was not a man accustomed to silence, yet the mansion felt hollow the morning Maya disappeared. Her laughter, her sharp retorts, the defiance in her eyes gone. All that remained was the platinum ring on the dresser, glinting under the pale sunlight like an accusation. His assistant Claire found him staring at it hours later. Sir, the press is asking about Mrs. Ward's absence from last night's after-party. What do you want me to say? Ethan didn't move, his voice flat. Tell them nothing. But the world never tolerated nothing. By afternoon, tabloids screamed. Fake marriage? Ethan Ward's wife missing. Reporters camped at the gates, cameras waiting like vultures. Maya, meanwhile, found refuge in the only place that still felt real, her mother's bookstore. The bell above the door jingled softly as she stepped inside. The shelves smelled of paper and dust, the air heavy with the comfort of memory. Her mother looked up from the counter, eyes widening. Maya? What happened? Maya dropped her bag, sinking into a chair. I can't do it anymore, Mom. I thought I could live in his world, play by his rules, but I was wrong. He lied to me. He's not just rich, he's untouchable. And I was the fool who thought I mattered. Her mother came around the counter, placing a hand on her shoulder. You do matter. Not to his money, not to his world, to yourself. Don't let his deception erase who you are. Maya buried her face in her hands. Then why does it hurt so much? Across the city, Ethan sat in his study, the chessboard still frozen mid-game. Claire entered hesitantly. You could let her go. The bet's won, the contract binding. You don't need her anymore. Ethan's jaw tightened. You think this was ever about the bet? For the first time, Claire saw something raw flicker across his expression. Fear, regret, something almost human. She said nothing, only slipped out of the room, leaving him with his silence. 3 days passed. Maya tried to lose herself in routine sorting books, dusting shelves, pretending the world outside didn't exist. But whispers followed her, even here. Customers glanced, murmured. One evening, Lila burst through the door, breathless. Maya, have you seen it? Seen what? Lila held up her phone. On the screen, a video played Ethan. Standing at a press conference, surrounded by cameras. His voice was steady, but his eyes carried a weight that made Maya's chest tighten. I made a mistake, he said. This marriage began as a wager, but it became the only truth I've known in years. Maya Collins is not my prop, not my contract, not my pawn. She is the woman I love. And if I have to lose everything to prove that, then so be it. Gasps filled the room in the video, questions shouted. Ethan walked away from the podium, ignoring them all. Maya's throat went dry. Why would he? Lila gripped her arm. Because he means it. He just burned his reputation for you. The question is, will you forgive him? That night, Maya stood alone in the darkened bookstore. She traced her fingers over the spines of books her father once arranged, the very shop she had fought so hard to save. Her heart waged a war between anger and longing. Outside, rain tapped against the glass. She closed her eyes, Ethan's words echoing in her mind. Not my pawn, the woman I love. For the first time since walking away, Maya wondered if she had left too soon. The city buzzed with scandal. Headlines blared Ethan Ward's confession, dissecting every word, every gesture. Some called it madness. Others, a desperate stunt. But none of it mattered to Ethan. For once, he wasn't thinking about shareholders or rivals, only about Maya. She hadn't answered his calls, hadn't opened the flowers he sent. The bookstore's number rang hollow, and every night he returned to the mansion that felt more like a tomb without her. Until one evening, 3 weeks later, the gallery lights flickered on in downtown Manhattan. Invitations had been sent quietly, without fanfare, but word spread fast. Ethan Ward was unveiling something new. Critics, journalists, and society's elite packed the modern glass building, curious what the billionaire would dare show after his public implosion. Maya heard about it only by accident, a customer at the bookstore whispering about the mysterious exhibition. She almost ignored it. Almost. But some invisible pull dragged her across the city until she stood outside the gallery, rain dampening her jacket. Through the tall windows, she saw a crowd gathered around a single canvas, draped in cloth. Her heart pounded. Against her better judgment, she stepped inside. The hum of voices filled the space, but when Ethan appeared, silence fell. He wore no tuxedo this time, no armor of perfection, just a simple suit, eyes shadowed with sleepless nights. He didn't look at the cameras. He looked at her. Tonight, he began, voice steady, this gallery is not about me. It's about someone who reminded me what it means to live honestly. Someone who gave me fire when I had only walls. He pulled the cloth away. Gasps echoed. On the canvas bloomed a series of paintings, sketches, and colors so familiar, Maya's knees weakened. It was her art. Pages she had left behind in notebooks, doodles she never thought mattered. Ethan had found them, restored them, displayed them like treasures. Above the collection, in bold letters, the title read, The Art of Maya Collins. Her breath caught. The crowd murmured, dazzled, but Ethan only saw her. He stepped closer, his voice carrying. I build empires out of steel and numbers. But you build worlds out of lines and color. You showed me that worth isn't measured in power, but in truth. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'll spend my life earning it if you'll let me. The room blurred. Maya's chest ached. Every wound, every betrayal, every longing collided inside her. She wanted to scream, to cry, to run, but her feet stayed rooted. Whispers swirled around them. Cameras flashed. None of it touched the space between them. Slowly she stepped forward. Her voice shook, but it carried. "You broke me, Ethan. You made me doubt everything. But you also gave me back a piece of myself I thought I'd lost. This isn't about money, or contracts, or bets anymore. If I come back, it's on one condition." His eyes searched hers, desperate. "Anything." She lifted her chin. "No more lies, no more masks, just the truth. Always." Ethan's breath shuddered out. Always. For a heartbeat, the crowd disappeared. It was just them, a billionaire stripped bare and a rebellious girl who had once walked into his world by mistake. And for the first time, it felt real. Maya reached for his hand. His fingers closed around hers like a vow. The gallery erupted in applause, but all she heard was his whisper, trembling against her ear. "Thank you for giving me another chance." Spring sunlight poured through the wide windows of the bookstore that had nearly been lost. The shelves gleamed with fresh polish, the faded sign out front now painted anew, Collins and Ward Books. Children sprawled on the carpet reading, couples browsed hand in hand, and the bell above the door chimed with steady rhythm. At the counter, Maya rang up a stack of novels for a customer. Her hair was pinned loosely, a smudge of ink on her thumb, the same as always. Yet everything was different. The debt was gone, the shop secure, the future wide open. She looked around with quiet pride. This was hers again. A familiar hand slipped across the counter, resting gently on hers. She glanced up. Ethan stood there in a navy shirt, no tie, no armor, just a man. His gaze was steady, softer than she had ever known it. "Ready?" he asked. She frowned playfully. "For what?" He lifted a small velvet box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a ring. Not platinum, not cold, but a delicate gold band with a tiny sapphire, her favorite color. The crowd in the store hushed, eyes widening as the billionaire dropped to one knee on the old wooden floor. "Maya Collins," he said, voice carrying through the shop. "I married you once on a bet, and it was the worst mistake of my life. Today, I want to marry you again, this time for love, and for every tomorrow we'll share. No contracts, no lies, just us." Her throat tightened. For a moment she couldn't speak, only stare at the man who had once shattered her and then rebuilt her world with patience and truth. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she whispered, "Yes. This time, yes." Applause broke out, books forgotten, strangers cheering. Ethan slid the ring onto her finger, then rose to kiss her gentle, sure, a promise sealed not by paper but by hearts. Weeks later, under a canopy of lights strung across the bookstore courtyard, family and friends gathered for their wedding. No gala, no marble halls, just laughter, music, and the scent of spring flowers. Maya wore a simple ivory dress, Ethan a dark suit, and when they exchanged vows, it was not spectacle but truth. "I don't need a fortune," Maya said, voice trembling. "I only need you, honest and whole." "And I," Ethan replied, eyes shining, "will spend every day proving that love is more powerful than any empire I could ever build." As the guests cheered and the night filled with music, Ethan pulled her close, whispering against her ear, "The best mistake I ever made was meeting you." Maya laughed through her tears, holding him tighter. For the first time, neither of them was playing a game. This was real. This was forever. And in the glow of their bookstore, surrounded by words and love, they began the chapter that truly mattered their own.